story is worse than you think.
Packers running back Josh Jacobs arrested.
Yeah, Jacobs turned himself in today. He's booked in the Brown County Jail. Charges of battery, strangulation and suffocation, and intimidating a victim.
Yeah.
Because Josh Jacobs was arrested, that means that somebody did, he
Right.
did something he shouldn't have done.
Yeah, not a good look. If he's guilty of all these things, then shame on him. He's going to have to pay the consequences, and he should. But like history has also taught us that, you know, within love and relationships like that at times too, these stories and things can go a little crazy. But either way, it's not a good look, and it's a stain on Josh Jacobs' reputation.
A few months ago, Brian Gutekunst stood at a podium at the NFL Combine and called Josh Jacobs a warrior, called him a critical piece, said he had a lot of good years left, and that was in February. Yesterday, on the first day of OTAs, while his Packers teammates were on the practice field, Josh Jacobs was being booked into Brown County Jail on 5 criminal charges, including a felony
County? Sheesh.
that carries up to 6 years in a Wisconsin state prison. And what makes this story even crazier is this is the 3rd year in a row an NFL player has faced a felony of this magnitude. The last 2 were both acquitted, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened with them because it tells you everything about what's likely coming for Josh Jacobs. But first, you need to understand how serious these charges actually are, because this isn't what most people think when they're hearing of a DV arrest. So before we get to the content, I just wanted to give a shout out to my pop culture channel. Since we're in the dog days of the Out on Flight Mike TV, I'll leave a link to that in the description down below and in the comment section. And now that we get all that out of the way, let's get to today's video. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? I need to be absolutely clear before we go any further. These are just allegations. Josh Jacobs has not been convicted of anything. His attorneys have already come out and said that he vehemently denies the allegations and that there's evidence that hasn't been made public.
If you guys don't know, the girl that is in question of this situation is Ash Cash. Very popular IG model. If you know, you know. She's been around the internet as the light skin demon, the light skin queen. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you've seen her around before. This girl right here. So she's the girl that is essentially was dating bruh and is now, you know, pressing charges for, you know, whatever reason. Which again, if he did these things, disgusting. It is what it is. But boy, it's just sad to see that many men have fallen victim to this shit. It's like, I don't know what it is, bro. Is it like, it's just, I don't know what it is. It's just crazy. I'm starting to feel like we're seeing a pattern with a lot of football players that end up in this type of situation. But again, I want to make it very clear. If he did that shit, lock him up, bro. There's no reason to be, you know, flashing like that.
So due process matters, and we're going to treat it that way throughout this entire video. That being said, the charges themselves are public record, and they are very serious charges that could ruin Josh Jacobs' life. There's 5 total charges, and the one that jumps off the page is strangulation and suffocation. In the state of Wisconsin, that is a Class H felony. And here's what a lot of people don't realize. You don't have to render someone unconscious for this charge. The legal threshold is simply impeding someone's normal breathing or blood circulation by applying pressure to the throat, the neck, or blocking the nose or mouth. That's it. Up to 6 years in prison, up to a $10,000 fine, and that's for a first offense.
Throw your life away for what, bro? Why? Like, again, I'm not trying to reason with shit, but you're in the NFL, you're making a good money, you're a star from what I can see. You know, I'm not a big football guy, but you got the coach talking about you are a central part of the team. What makes you flash like this? Like, niggas just need to realize, like, unless your life is in danger, there's literally no reason why you should be putting your hands on a woman, bro.
The other 4 are misdemeanors: battery, criminal damage to property, disorderly conduct, all with domestic modifiers, plus intimidation of a victim. Per Tom Pelissaro, the strangulation charge is the only felony, but that intimidation charge, that one's interesting. Intimidation of a victim typically means alleged contact or pressure on the accuser after the initial incident. That suggests that this didn't end on Saturday morning. Which brings me to what we actually know about when this actually occurred. Saturday, May 23rd, 8:37 in the morning, the Hobart Lawrence Police Department gets dispatched to a disturbance complaint involving involving Josh Jacobs. An investigation begins. Then, nothing. No arrest Saturday, no arrest Sunday, no arrest on Monday. 3 full days pass, and then on Tuesday, Josh Jacobs turns himself in and gets booked. Why does that matter? Because a 3-day gap between the incident and the arrest tells you that this wasn't a heat of the moment decision by the cops. They investigated, they consulted with prosecutors, they built a case, and then they decided they had enough for 5 charges, including a felony. That's a deliberate process, not a snap judgment at the scene. What we don't know is basically everything else. We don't know who the alleged victim is. We don't have body camera footage.
We do.
We don't have 911 audio. The police chief said no further information will be released at this time. I do want to address something that's already blowing up on social media because you guys are definitely going to see it. Josh Jacobs has been in a public relationship with Ash Cash since early this year. People online are already connecting those dots, and I'm not going to do that because at the time that we're making this video, we don't know who the victim is. There is this one tweet that people keep coming back to where Ash Cash says, "Tough love sounds like cruelty to me." If you guys want to connect those dots, you're more than welcome to do it. I'm not going to speculate about who was or was not involved. That's honestly not my job. What I will tell you is that the charges,
fair enough, you know, see, again, allegedly. It's all alleged.
include a domestic abuse modifier, which under Wisconsin law means the alleged victim is someone Jacobs has or had a domestic relationship with. That's the extent of what we can responsibly say right now. But Josh Jacobs' defense team, they're already talking, and the team he assembled tells you how seriously he's taking this. David Chesnoff and Richard Schoenfeld. Chesnoff is one of the most prominent criminal defense attorneys in the entire country, based out of Las Vegas from Josh Jacobs' years with the Raiders. These are not the lawyers you hire if you think the charges are going to quietly go away, and their statement was very specific. Important evidence that has not yet been made public. That's not a generic denial, guys. That's a legal team telling you they believe they have something that changes the story entirely. So where does this go from here? Well, here's the thing. The criminal case is actually only half the problem for Jacobs because the NFL has its own process. And if you think,
yeah, it's like they don't even want to deal with the stain. That's the thing, which they shouldn't. You know, I mean, the only times where I feel bad for players is when it's clearly like a false allegation, you know, because people are clout chasers. Like we saw, like what we just saw play out with the Stephen Diggs situation. You know what I'm saying? If you guys don't know, pretty much he had a private chef that he was paying. You know, if you look at the private chef, just the way she looked, I mean, bro, it almost looked like he was paying for something else other than food. But hey, that's an assumption, right? And essentially, Stephen Diggs eventually told her that he's bringing some girls over or whatever. It looked like she got jealous. They had a falling out, and she ended up filing a suit against him, saying that there was like he assaulted her and then wasn't paying her and some more shit. All to come out when they went to jail. It was complete bullshit. She got fried on the stand, and she's a complete liar. And you know, Stephen Diggs definitely looks like he's out here clapping cheeks left and right, but at least he's not, you know, he's not doing anything to cause any harm. Everything is consensual. Them babies are dropping because they wanted them babies. You know what I'm saying? All that to say, it's like when you have a situation like that where it's clearly just a lie, and they just want to see somebody burn, and then the NFL in return, because they just don't even want to deal with the negativity or the stigma, and they drop these players. It sucks. It really does suck. But at the same time, we've also seen plenty of cases where these guys can't control themselves. They have anger issues, and they just be tripping and flashing for virtually nothing. So I don't know, man. It's just it's a tough place to be, and I think the best advice that I could probably give is just, as a guy, as a man, you really have to overly put yourself in a position not to fail. You know, you got to start paying attention to the red flags, understand your flaws as a man. Like, if you can't handle certain situations, if you're not emotionally intelligent enough to handle certain situations, don't deal with certain women. Don't put yourself in a position to flash. You know what I'm saying? And there's lots of different, it's a lot of self-reflection, but then also making sure that you surround yourself with people that, you know, understand you and what you got going on. So, but let's continue, man. I'm yapping.
think a not guilty verdict means that you're safe in the NFL, let me just remind you how wrong you truly are. After the Ray Rice situation in 2014, Roger Goodell rewrote the personal conduct policy. The baseline punishment for a first offense domestic violence violation became a 6-game suspension. The second offense was a lifetime ban with the option to apply for reinstatement after a year. But here's what matters specifically for Josh Jacobs. The policy says the suspension can go beyond 6 games when there are aggravating factors. And do you know what's explicitly listed as an aggravating factor? Suffocating someone. Right there in the policy: repeated striking, violence with a weapon, violence against a pregnant woman, violence in front of a child, and choking or strangulation. Josh Jacobs' lead charge is one of the NFL's own named aggravating factors. That's not a 6-game baseline situation, that's potentially longer. And then there's the commissioner's exempt list, which is basically paid leave. The player stays on the roster, he keeps getting paychecks, but can't practice and can't play. Only Roger Goodell can put you on it, and only Roger Goodell can take you off. And there's no set timeline. You stay until he says you're done. But here's what really makes this terrifying for Josh Jacobs. The NFL does not need a conviction. They don't even need charges. Think about Deshaun Watson. More than 24 women accused him of sexual misconduct during
to be playing, sports at that level to a degree. Yeah, it is a luxury, bro. You work hard, you're doing everything you're doing, but I feel like, to be doing anything in the world of entertainment, which sports at the end of the day is a form of entertainment, it is a luxury, bro. You got to make sure that you are paying attention to what you got going. Again, if he's falsely accused, I feel for him, but it's just, I don't know, bro. Sometimes it's like a lot of this shit can get pushed back to lust, you know what I'm saying? And, we talk about that a lot on the channel. I know that's not everybody's situation, so I don't want to put them in a box, but it just feels like motherfuckers that lead with lust, and that's the top of their mind. They always out partying, drinking, just fucking a bunch of hoes left and right. Just it just always feel like it end in nasty situation one way or another. But again, it's all alleged. I don't want to put shit on somebody that I really don't know. I'm just speaking kind of in general right now.
Sessions. A grand jury declined to indict him. 0 criminal charges, but he got an 11-game suspension and a $5 million fine. Think about Kareem Hunt. He was never arrested, never charged. 8-game suspension based on video and the league's own investigation. The NFL standard isn't beyond a reasonable doubt. It's whether the player's conduct undermines or puts at risk the integrity and the reputation of the NFL. That's a much lower bar, you guys. So even if every charge against Jacobs gets dropped tomorrow, even if he's acquitted like the last 2 guys who faced these exact charges, the NFL can still suspend him. An acquittal closes the criminal case, but it does not close the league's case. Remember that, because we're about to talk about those 2 guys who were acquitted, and what happened to them tells you exactly what's about to come for Green Bay. Remember what I said in the beginning of this video? This is the 3rd straight year that an NFL player has faced charges of this magnitude. Year 1 was Jabril Peppers, year 2 was Stephon Diggs, and I guess year 2.5 is Josh Jacobs. And the first 2 cases played out in ways that would make everyone uncomfortable, whether that's the league, the teams, or the fans. No matter where you land on the outcomes, let's go to Jabril Peppers. In October of 2024, Jabril Peppers was the team captain of the New England Patriots. He just signed a $25 million extension. Then his girlfriend told police he smashed her head against a wall and choked her at least 6 times. He was also charged with possession of blow after cops found a bag in his wallet during the arrest.
Making too much money, bro. You're making too much money.
NFL put Peppers on the exempt list. He missed 7 games. Imagine that. You're Josh Jacobs right now, and you're looking at Peppers' case thinking, okay, that's 7 games of my life at minimum, even before anyone decides if I did anything wrong. The Packers don't get a say. The NFLPA can't stop it. It's just Roger Goodell's call. But here's where it gets a little complicated. In January of 2025, a jury acquitted Peppers on every domestic violence charge, not guilty across the board. He pled guilty to the blow charge separately. So was the exempt list the right call? 7 games for a guy who was ultimately found not guilty? Then we go to a few months ago. Stefon Diggs. Diggs is accused of smacking and choking his personal chef during a fight over unpaid wages. We've been covering this story ad nauseum throughout this offseason. It's basically the same charge as Josh Jacobs, felony strangulation, and Diggs pled not guilty in February. And then 3 weeks ago, on May 5th, a jury found Stefon Diggs not guilty on everything. About an hour of deliberation, and that's it. The defense argued that there were no photos of injuries, no statements about an assault for 2 full weeks after the alleged incident. The case came down to one person's word against another's, and the jury said it wasn't enough. So ask yourself, if you're Josh Jacobs' attorney right now, what exactly are you thinking? Well, you're thinking that the last 2 guys that were faced with these charges were able to just walk away scot-free. You're thinking that juries don't love these cases when it's just testimony against testimony. You're thinking that you have a roadmap, and that's probably why the defense already sounds confident. But if you're Roger Goodell, you're thinking something completely different. You're thinking that I've got a PR problem every time one of these cases hits the news. You're thinking about Ray Rice. You're thinking about what happens if you don't act and it turns out that the charges were legit. That fear, the fear of being too lenient, has driven every major NFL discipline decision throughout the Roger Goodell era. You can't understand any of this without understanding what happened to Ray Rice. On February of 2014, Ray Rice punched his fiancée unconscious in an Atlantic City elevator. TMZ released footage of him dragging her body out. The NFL saw that footage and suspended him for 2 games. Josh Gordon got
Only for 2 games?
Got a full season for weed that same year. Yeah, the NFL was a wild place back then. Then in September, TMZ dropped the video from inside the elevator, the actual punch, and within hours, the Ravens cut Ray Rice and Goodell suspended him indefinitely. He went from 2 games to a lifetime ban because the public saw what happened. Not because the NFL suddenly cared more, because the cameras caught them not caring enough. Rice never played another snap, and Goodell had to stand at a podium and say, I didn't get it right. That moment is why we have a 6-game minimum. That moment is why the exempt list gets used so aggressively now. Every DV decision the NFL makes is still a reaction to how badly they failed with Ray Rice. And that's why Jacobs' situation is going to move fast, because the one thing Goodell fears more than anything is being caught looking lenient again. So I know what you guys might be wondering, how does this affect the Green Bay Packers? Well, I hate to say this, but the Green Bay Packers kind of did this to themselves. Jacobs is making $10.2 million in base salary this year with a total cap hit of $14.5 million, one of the highest paid non-quarterbacks on the roster. Brian Gutekunst went to the combine in February and said Josh Jacobs would absolutely be back and called him a warrior who has a lot of good years left. Then Emmanuel Wilson left for Seattle, and the Packers responded by not drafting a running back.
All right, it's starting to get into too much football talk that I don't truly understand. I'm more of a basketball guy, but crazy situation, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this one in the comment section. If you guys want to watch the rest of this video, I leave the link to the original in the description, so you guys can go check that out. But crazy situation. At the end of the day, I'm only hoping for justice and, you know, what's actually true, and I hope that whoever's actually the victim here, you know, gets what they deserve in the right way. And it's just unfortunate, man. You know, I hate to see fellow black men just keep ending up in this situation, innocent or guilty. Because even when you look at Stefon Diggs, like, again, he's innocent. He doesn't deserve to have what happened to him. But at the same time, you can look at his lifestyle, all these baby mamas, all these different things, and it's like I can't help but feel like there's a common denominator with these problems, and it be lust. But y'all let me know y'all thoughts, man. Love y'all, appreciate y'all. My name is Berto. Where you at, Berto? Join the Where You At family so you never miss a live stream reaction live on Twitch. Link to in the description.
Where you at, Berto?
I made this shit look too easy.